Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update here on the current situation in Spain, day 26 of the lockdown, and we'll go through some of the news that has caught my eye over the last couple of days. Firstly, a shout out for those around the world who have been watching the videos. I've had comments from people from Israel, India, Hong Kong, Indonesia, European countries, South American countries, Australia, New Zealand, of course. So keep those comments coming through. Also, a big shout out for those that have decided to support the channel in the form of a donation. You can see your names here. And also for people that have been buying the merchandise, a big thanks for that. And as you can see below, there are some new merchandise items now available. So if you want to support the channel, that is a way to do it. Now, some of the news that has caught my attention over the last couple of days. Parliament is in session today and they're debating the current situation and deciding whether to make the lockdown official until the 26th of April. The Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, has gone on record boasting the best management in Europe of this current crisis, and the opposition leader, Pablo Casado, has called for a government that does not lie. Now, I'll let you guys debate whether the government is the best at handling this situation in Europe at the moment, so leave those comments below. He also assured that the pandemic is beginning to be under control, but warns that the future will hold a new normal. Now, exactly what this new normal is, I don't know. We can speculate as to what it's going to be, but obviously a lot of things are not going to go back to what we used to consider to be normal. So there will be a new normal according to Pedro Sánchez. Some of the news coming out of Spain and some of the messages from government ministers is a little bit contradictory. Yesterday, one of the ministers said that Spain will slowly return to normal life starting on April 26th. She said that technical experts will decide on the conditions of the gradual de-escalation of confinement measures. But hours later, the health minister came forward and said that confinement will not be lifted because we are still in a hard phase. The Minister of Health refuses to launch messages that relax confinement in contrast to Montero. Montero was the minister that gave a more optimistic view yesterday, and the health minister came out and contradicted her. And in the afternoon, another minister, Mr. Ábalos, also corrected Montero and denied the relaxation of confinement. So again, even inside the government, there are opposing views. So very, very confusing as to what the future holds here in Spain. Now, the Treasury Department yesterday also said that it was considering postponing taxes on 3.4 million small and medium-sized companies and self-employed people. They said they are considering delaying the deadline for submitting April tax assessments. Now, if you are working in Spain and you have a small company or you are self-employed, April is the time where you have to do your 3 monthly reports, you have to pay your VAT, so maybe there's going to be a postponement of these taxes, but again, nothing official on that. Brussels has also proposed to extend restrictions on non-essential travel until May 15, so non-essential travel to the European Union most likely to be extended until that date. Now, there's also a bit of confusion for people that have to go back to work on Monday. Remember that all non-essential activity was put on hold for 9 days, and after this Easter break, people are going to start going back to some of those non-essential jobs. But there's a bit of confusion, and companies are asking for clear rules on what people should do. For example, whether people have to wear face masks, and some of the other protocols are not clear at the moment. So waiting for the government to clarify that. The newspaper El País has asked the question, why does Spain have the world's highest virus mortality rate? And experts attribute the problem to a range of factors, including aging population and slow early detection efforts. And they go on to say that an aging population with a high rate of underlying health issues, as well as the impact of the virus on senior homes, are some of the reasons, according to one expert here. Now, of course, Easter is upon us and police are cracking down on violators of Spain's virus lockdown during Holy Week with increased checkpoints and drones. There was a risk that lots of people would decide to leave the city yesterday and go to second homes that they have around the country, maybe go to the coast. So the police have cracked down on that. Yesterday, apparently in Madrid, for example, there were huge traffic jams on all of the major exits. And a lot of people thought that hundreds of thousands of people were escaping to the coast. But apparently what happened was that the police had very strict roadblocks in place on all of those major roads, and the traffic backed up. And it wasn't because people were deciding to go on holiday. It was just because of a very strict traffic control. Now, the government has also said that they are going to test 30,000 families for the virus. With more than 90% of cases going undetected, the government is aiming to get a more accurate picture of the spread and from there decide how we ease the confinement measures. And we can see here that the plan has been designed to test around 30,000 families or some 62,400 people, and during a campaign that will begin next week and last for 3 weeks. Now, I know that there are some private hospitals around Spain, especially in some of the coastal areas, that are offering tests, but you have to pay for them. So if you want to go and do the test yourself, you can, or you can wait for government tests that might be a little bit longer. Now, an article here that caught my attention: why does the virus in Portugal not affect as much as in Spain? Portugal is an example on how to manage this crisis. One of the reasons, according to this, is that there has been citizen commitment. So in addition to the speed of the Portuguese government in taking measures, citizens have shown great responsibility and commitment in complying with the measures of confinement. While in Spain, more than 3,000 people have been arrested, in the neighbouring country there have only been 84, a clear sign that its citizens are disciplined and take the problem of the virus seriously. So Portuguese people seem to be taking the problem more seriously than here in Spain. Another reason, according to this, is measure hardening and quick response. The country's government, alerted by the situation in Spain and Europe, was aware of the seriousness in the situation and took drastic measures from the outset. Antonio Costa declared a state of alert and closed schools, universities, bars and discotheques. Shopping malls and restaurants limited their capacity and took very little time to be closed. So as we can see, Portugal handling the situation better. So if you are in Portugal, please leave a comment in the section below and tell us what people are doing there regarding the crisis. Now, some comments from the last video. The first one here from Michelle. She says, "Hola Stuart from Marbella. I watch your videos every day. It's been a long 24 days. Yes, we are all worried, but we are all alive and well because most of us are adhering to the lockdown rules and our fantastic emergency services who go above and beyond. I would like to add something positive, as yesterday someone asked if it was like a war zone. The truth is the community spirit here in the Costa del Sol is amazing." So thanks, Michelle, for that comment. Good to see that the community is coming together on the Costa del Sol and in other areas around Spain and around the world. Good to see. I think that is one of the positives from this whole situation, that communities do come together in times like this. In normal times when we have our busy lives, sometimes it is easy to lose sight of that sense of community. But in times like this, it is good to see that we do come together to help other people out. Now, another one here from Wild Heart. From what I've seen in the UK, the overwhelming majority of people seem to be playing by the rules. There are some who either just don't get it yet or they just don't care. Now, unfortunately, that's a common problem around the world. The majority, in my opinion, are taking this problem seriously. There's always going to be people that don't. I listen to Australian radio every day and they're always going on about people that are not paying attention to the new rules. In fact, one Melbourne radio station asked for listeners to call in and talk about people that are being absolute dickheads at the moment. And let's be honest, there's always going to be dickheads in society and people that don't pay attention to rules and people that do whatever they want. And these are people in situations like this that just can't get it into their head that we have a problem. And it's as simple as that. They'll always exist, but thankfully they're in the minority in the majority of countries in the world. One here from Aros. They say, "What's the lockdown like in rural Spain? Is it more relaxed than in cities like Madrid or Barcelona?" Now, I can't really answer this question because I'm on the outskirts of Spain's biggest city here, Madrid, so I don't really know what's happening in rural Spain. But I had a comment from Chris, who lives in Lugo province in Galicia. It's a very rural area. And they say here that my partner and I went shopping today after self-isolating for 30 days. Before we left, my partner called the Guardia to see if we could both be in the same car. They said yes if we were seated diagonally, me in front, her in back. There were very few people about and most but not all were masked. The local shops were well stocked, much as usual, but strict distancing was enforced. Good to see. Thanks for your show. So as we can see here in some of the more rural areas in Spain, the lockdown rules are also in place and the police are enforcing those rules in those areas as well. One here from Dimitris. He said, "Thanks, Stuart. Do you think that something positive will come out of this situation at least? I believe that self-reflection and compassion shall be raised after all." Now, I probably agree with you here, Dimitris. Self-reflection and compassion shall be raised. We saw in one of the comments before that a lot of people are coming together in a more community spirit, and I think that we will will get some positives out of this in the end. Obviously, in the next few months, we're going to hear about a lot of the negatives. For example, the economy, people losing their jobs, people having trouble trying to make ends meet. But again, in times like this, people become very creative. Lots of new ideas will pop up. Lots of new things will happen. And I think it is a good opportunity, as you said here, for self-reflection. And if you weren't really happy with the way that your life was going, it's a great opportunity to start from scratch and maybe do something new. It all depends on how old you are, but I think there's going to be a lot of new opportunities out there for people in the future. Another one here from Pez New Swire. Keep up the good work, Stuart. Any idea if us autónomos have to put in our papers for the first quarter as usual? Spoke about that at the beginning of the video. At the moment, yes, you have to do it. I checked with my gestor yesterday. He said that you have to do it at the moment, but you are able to delay the payment of taxes should that be the case. But again, as I said before, the government is considering whether to postpone that April 20 deadline. So if that does change, I'll let you know in the next video. One here from Steve Fletcher. He says, no post here in Extremadura for the last 3 weeks. A mate sent me some masks from 40 k's away before the lockdown started and I still haven't received them. You can't buy them anywhere, so what am I to do? Now again, there are some problems with the postal service depending on where you are. Yesterday we had our first postal service for the last 3 weeks, so I imagine that in the future the mail will eventually come through. As for getting masks, my girlfriend yesterday rang the local pharmacy and ordered some in, and they're going to be here tomorrow. So that's always an option, Steve. Call your local chemist or your local pharmacy, ask them to get them in for you, and they should be able to do that. Now a final one here from Kevin in Fuengirola. As I understand it, Spain owes the EU hundreds of millions of euros. How are they going to fund the recovery? Yeah, that's a good question, and that is a debate that is on the table at the moment. There are some problems in the European Union between the North countries and the South countries as to where the money is going to come from. I don't want to talk too much about economics because I'm not an expert on the subject, but I do know that Spain has a 97% debt to GDP ratio, which means that it does owe a lot of money, and it is one of the first things that the country has to do every month is pay that money back to its creditors, and a lot of other countries around the world are in a similar situation. And it's not good to go into a crisis like this with debt. So we'll have to see what happens when even more debt is piled onto the existing debt. So I think it's going to be an issue. Now, that's all I have to say today. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. I'll let you guys debate the situation out as usual. More than 700 comments on the last video, so keep those comments coming along. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.